Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Bleak Coast Isle playing as the Force of Brettonia against the Force of the Dark Elves. And in this match we are running a rather, in my opinion at least, conventional composition. I simply found it to be rather effective. It's been a while since I did the Dark Elf matchup and I figured better safe than sorry. So for my lord here, I am running with the Fey Enchantress. She's, in my opinion, a very strong pick in this matchup. The Mortis Aura is stupidly good against elf factions because they have very low HP per unit, so you can drain them relatively quickly. And a -5 melee attack, of course, great debuff. She also does have good support magic. So we've got Awakening of the Wood, very useful against Sister of Slaughter, Witch Elves, but also for disrupting troops and helping your cavalry escape. And she also does have Earthblood, which is nice, of course, for healing your elite cavalry. Besides that, we do have, of course, Life Bloom for our heals when we're casting, Arcane Conduit for those ones of magic, Favor of the Fae to boost up either our infantry or our cavalry, and finally Chalice of Potions to bombard some pesky, dug-in heavy infantry like Blackguard, for example. The front line here, nothing too fancy, though definitely a bit more elite than some of the other compositions you've probably seen. We do have some Foot Squires in here, as well as the Beast Slayers of Bastogne and the Holy Wardens of the Mycentel. And I actually think this is one match where these guys can really shine. They're very high offensive stats, as well as magic and fire damage, makes them very good against the light Dark Elf infantry. So units like Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, Witch Elves, and for that matter, even Sisters of Slaughter. These guys can beat up on them pretty effectively. 48 weapon strength against units that don't have much, if any, armor is pretty monstrous. These guys can, it's basically two-shot Witch Elf models and destroy Sisters of Slaughter pretty handily, even when they're getting poisoned. Obviously, they'll probably lose in the long run just because they are still cheaper infantry, but they're very, very potent. The Beast Slayers of Bastogne, a nice cheap anchor. It's a good, when you're trying to Mortis enemies with Fey Enchantress, it's very important, in my opinion, to have an anchor unit. So either Grail Guardians, Beast Slayers of Bastogne, or even a unit like Battle Pilgrims or the Holy Wardens can do the trick, but I really do like the Beast Slayers for that function. They also give you some nice anti-large. Foot Squires, decent against cheap trash. And alright against a Blackguard, and Pyramid Arms on the flanks will definitely hold, at least for a little bit. Also worth noting, the Foot Squires, roaded up with the Favor of the Fae, will actually do quite a lot of damage to heavy Dark Elf infantry because they just hit like trucks. In the second line, we do have a whole bunch of Peasant Bows, 2 with Fire Arrows, 2 with, or I did believe we had 2 with Fire Arrows somewhere in there. There we go, there's 2 with Fires, 2 normal. They're a bit haggard and set up, but regardless, these guys are very powerful against lightly armored Dark Elf troops. They can also pressure units like Charybdii or Charybdis. Is it Charybdis? Or Charybdises or Charybdii? I think it may be Charybdii, but either way, you can pressure units like that. You can pressure units like Hydras, and apply some pressure even to units like Blackguard. Just being able to damage them is nice. For our cavalry contingent, we're going relatively cheap. We got Questing Knights as well as the Companions of Canel, and then 2 units of Grail Knights. So it's definitely not as cav heavy as, say, against the classic build against, say, High Elves. But nonetheless, I do believe Companions of Canel as well as Questing Knights are just very strong in this match. In my opinion, a bit more efficient against units like Cold War Knights, and definitely something you want against Blackguard, in my opinion, because Grail Knights just don't do that well. Now for my opponent, he has gone with Morathi for his Lord. Bit of a risky pick, in my opinion, because if Brettonia goes with an air-heavy build, this could backfire on you. Morathi doesn't have aerial defensive spells. Morathi are pretty stripped down. She's got Soul Stealer, she's got Power of Darkness, Soul Blight, which is definitely very potent at debuffing units like Grail Knights and the Holy Wardens and units like that. And besides that, she does, of course, have her 2 crazy abilities, Heartrender and Darksword, as well as Enchanting Beauty, which will be debuffing me by a huge amount when she's in close quarters. Arcane Conduit as well as Life Leeching are also in there for the Winds of Magic, so definitely some potent stuff. For his front line, though, my opponent has gone budget, a whole bunch of Dread Spears. These guys will not be able to trade blow for blow with the Foot Squires, the Beast Slayers, or the Holy Wardens, though they are backed by some Witch Elves as well as the Sisters of the Singing Doom, so I definitely have to watch out for those girls because they'll be able to do some damage to the infantry line. And, of course, they can also snare my cavalry, which is not something we want. They are backed by a single unit Blackguard Nagaron, very powerful unit in this match, and then 2 units of Cold War Knights as well as 2 Cold War Chariots. And the Cold War Chariots, or in fact, sorry, 3 units of Cold War Knights, 2 Cold War Chariots. And Cold War Chariots, interesting unit choice. You don't see them too often, but they did get a huge buff last patch when they Rampage became practically irrelevant, or Primal Instincts became irrelevant. They're going to be able to get some meaty charges here on top of my poor Holy Wardens, and they're just going to plow through, just piling into these poor guys. And they're sent flying. Their lightsaber swords are just not going to do very much. And honestly, I knew I couldn't stop them. There was just nothing I could do. My cavalry was too far back. And so these Cold War Knights here are just going to run amok and do quite a bit of damage. They actually run these guys over, do about 1,500 or so damage. The Fey Enchantress coming back in, trying to get some Dragon Ball Z moves on these guys, but not getting too much done. Though the rest of my infantry is largely able to engage here. Unfortunately, these guys' AI paths them back, which sucks and blows their charge bonus or nothing. That said, these Cold War Chariots here actually get caught up a bit between between the Beast Slayers of Bastogne as well as this unit Companions of Canel, and Companions of Canel are going to have some wars with these guys. In the meantime, the archers focusing down the Sisters of the Singing Doom, who are having a horrible time of it, and this is really one of those brutal things. Archers versus Witch Elves is a brutal show of firepower, and same thing happening over here where the archers are just demolishing the Witch Elves. Now, my opponent is rampaging my Holy Wardens, but I don't really care. They're in there to stay anyway. The Grail Knights do get a beautiful charge in there as well. And here in the pits, you know, the Beast Slayers are rampaged, but who really gives a crap? It's fine. They're fighting mostly cavalry. They'll be able to hold. Unfortunately, the Companions there do rampage, but we are getting a Chalice of Potions here on this blob. And on this flank, we're going to be winning pretty decisively because we got our Questing Knights and our Grail Knights into these Dread Spears, and we're going to be crushing them very efficiently. And unfortunately, my opponent here is not able to really extricate himself in time. The Chalice of Potions is coming down, and like a hammer blow, it's going to do quite a bit of hurt there, breaking apart these units and forcing the Cold One Knights to take some heavy losses there, though definitely hurting the Beast Slayers as well. In the pits here, Soul Stealer is going down, or actually as is Soul Blight, but fortunately it doesn't really matter too much to the Fey Enchanters, who just kind of tanks through all of that. Soul Blight does make my troops a bit weaker, definitely hurts these Grail Knights who are being avoided here by the favor of the Fey. And unfortunately these Chariots running amok, but because we have one this flank, we are able to just push through. The Witch Elves are largely neutralized at this point, so I don't have to worry about Rampage. These Sisters of the Singing Doom are way out of position. They're about to get run over by Grail Knights, and Grails are just built to demolish squishy infantry with no armor, relying on physical resist. So these Sisters of the Singing Doom are not going to be long for this world as they get demolished by a single knightly charge. In the pits, in the meantime, archery fire continues to reign supreme. You can see an Awakening of the Wood there going in, doing a little bit of damage, probably a bit wasted to be quite honest, but hey, we were trying to get a little bit more damage in there. And my opponent's army is now definitely on the ropes. You can see Marathi here trapped in the fight. The Cold One Knights finally do rampage. Now, this ability tends, the Primal Instincts tends not to have much of an impact, but right now it's definitely having some. And the Fey Enchantress here actually getting a cheeky rear charge on Mama Marathi. And Marathi does have some magic resist, so she's not super vulnerable, I guess, to the Fey, who does magic damage of her own. If we slow things down here a little bit, we can see just how much, 25%. So it's definitely not comparable to the 60% on the Fey Enchantress, but definitely some potent stuff. Earthblood actually going down on my infantry. This is not something I do all that often, but seeing this pocket and seeing how well it was holding, I wanted to keep them in the fight, so I'm going to hit them there with a Earthblood just to keep them in the fray. And in the meantime, my cavalry here is running down the chariots, and Cold One Chariot over here, basically a goner. This Cold One Chariot getting decimated by Grail Knights. And although my archers at this point are largely removed from play, or I guess that's not true, only 2 archers have really been removed from play, we are now able to rally, more archers getting into position, starting to whittle down these Blackguard Nagarond. Infantry in the pits here is going to overwhelm the Raptors. My opponent is rallying his troops, trying to get them back in the fray. These Dread Spears plowing in. Of course, Blackguard here fighting tooth and nail. These guys just don't break. Trading tit for tat with the Beast Slayers of Bastogne. Golden One Knights trying to get in on the flank as well, but at this point, it is too little too late. The Companions of Canel here just sitting around. I forgot about them. They're 6 models anyway, so can't do very much. My peasants here getting compromised for sure. But at this stage of the game, I don't really need them anymore. I still have the Fey and some relatively healthy Cav to cycle charge. And it's going to be a break for the Dark Elves. And quite a victory for the Brettonians. So, in my opinion, this build that I ran here is actually pretty competitive. If you're looking to deal with Dark Elves, this is probably the worst of the Elf matchups for Brettonians. I don't like calling matches auto wins, but the Wood Elf matchup is borderline auto win for Brettonia. It's very difficult to lose. With certain terrain abuses and certain very specific builds, you can occasionally pull it off, but basically Wood Elves are borderline unwinnable. And High Elves are very difficult. But Dark Elves, you know, I think they have a decent choice, and I think this build is reasonably well adjusted to dealing with them. You've got a massive archers to deal with units like Blackguard, and yes, they don't have a lot of AP, so obviously they're not going to be doing huge amounts, but Elves don't have a lot of HP per model, so just being able to pour on some damage is actually pretty potent. And of course, if your opponent brings Witch Elves or Sisters of Slaughter, which aren't that rare of a choice, especially Witch Elves, archers will decimate them. It's not even close to a real fight. The archers will destroy them, and you saw that in this game where the Sisters of Singing Doom were literally routed off before they got almost any work done. 8 kills for a unit like this is just really pretty terrible. And it's important because you remove that terror from play. If your opponent brings a Charybdis, if your opponent brings a Hydra, your archers could just destroy it. And you don't have to worry about sacrificing your knights, throwing them into, say, Blackguard or something that might be anchoring a Charybdis. Besides that, Questing Knights, I think, are very potent because they counter Cold One Knights relatively well, and they're much better against Blackguard Executioners and units like that than Grail Knights are. But Grail Knights are still a very solid unit, regardless, so I do like bringing a few of those. And finally, in the infantry fight, I think this is a match where you can bring some better infantry. Against Wood Elves, and especially High Elves, I don't feel there's much incentive to bring decent troops in your front line. You might as well just go mass men-at-arms. But against the Dark Elves, I think you do get some benefit from bringing better troops. Especially Foot Squires can trade pretty well with some of the Dark Elf infantry, both lower end stuff like Black Ark Corsairs, and of course Dread Spears and Witch Elves. But they can trade well even into Black Art units like that. And Holy Wardens, similar thing. Beast Slayers provide you with solid anchor without having to pay for Grail Guardians. So definitely some potent units. And of course Faye, just great against elf factions. It's great in general, but great against elf factions especially because she drains HP at a quicker rate relative to their HP. Because 12 damage a tick matters a lot less for Black Orcs than it does for a unit like Blackguard or Witch Elves or Sister Slaughter. For my opponent's build, I do think there was a bit of a risky decision here bringing the Cold One Chariots. Now, obviously, Cold One Chariots can get massive value against the Brettonian infantry. There's no doubt about that. The problem is that they get shut down pretty handily by cavalry. And when they're just blocked off like that, when they're not really able to get through into the backline in time or in a timely manner, they just can't deliver, in my opinion. And that's kind of what happened here. They got a meaty charge early on against the Holy Wardens and then basically got nothing done. Cold One Knights, not a bad choice in my opinion. Definitely can trade pretty well into Brettonian troops, especially with proper support. Though I do think it can be worth bringing Malekith, for example, just because he can bring Word of Pain. It's a bit of a better support spell in my opinion. Witch Elves not a bad choice, neither is Blackguard. I do find that bolt throwers can be decent. One of the problems with a build like this is that you're definitely gambling on your chariots shutting down the backline. But if your chariots aren't able to get through for whatever reason, not having anything to counter peasant bow spam is a problem. Marathi also not a bad choice. I just do prefer those debuffs on Malekith, especially Word of Pain. But definitely she can provide an AoE, permanent AoE debuff, essentially, with minus 18 attack and 9 defense, which is pretty insane. And finally, Dread Spears, they're alright. I'm personally, as far as what chaff you should bring, I think Dread Spears are okay. I do also enjoy Black Ark Corsairs in this match, they're decent. But Dread Spears can work for sure. Regardless, well played to Underhill here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, any requests, or anything of that nature, be sure to put them down below. And I will do my very best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.